Konnichiwa, my name's Andy. Welcome to Uzumaki Garage. Today I want to replace the front suspension bushes on the white Integra Type R. My service manual doesn't describe how to replace these bushes, but even if it did, I'm sure the Honda special tools would no longer be available. So how do you do this job without the special tools? Well, I recently bought a hydraulic press, so that's a good start. But before I can use it, I need to work out exactly what size sleeves, cups and spacers I need to use. So let's work it out and get it done. When I disconnected the strut's lower fork from the control arm, I noticed this bush on the control arm was cracked and distorted. There's another bush on the end of the control arm too, which is probably in the same condition. The front and rear section of this arm can be separated by removing this nut and bolt. The compliance bush on the rear section is still in good condition, so I don't need to replace it or remove the rear section of the control arm. But I want to remove the front section of the arm so I can use a hydraulic press to push out the old bushes. I'm sliding a jack stand under the control arm, but it's not supporting the car's weight at all. It's just to stop the control arm from rotating while I loosen the nut and bolts. Now I'm using a breaker bar and 17mm socket to separate the front section of the control arm from the car. Both of these bushes are worn out and definitely need replacing. Now I'm working out exactly what size tube I need to use to push out the old bushes. The new bush that goes underneath the strut fork is 40.2mm, so I'll need a sleeve about 0.5 mm less than that to press on the outer edge of the old bush. But when I look through my sleeve press kit, there's nothing close to the right size, so I'm going to have to make something. Sockets are hardened steel, so I wouldn't recommend using one to press out bushes as it could shatter and cause you serious injury. But some impact sockets aren't as hard as regular sockets, so they can withstand the torque of rattle guns better without breaking. So maybe an impact socket being softer is less likely to shatter, but I will of course be wearing safety glasses and a face mask. I've got a 28mm deep impact socket which has an outside diameter of 40mm exactly, which might work for me here, but it also might be a bit tight. If it feels like it's binding up inside the control arm or won't get started, I'll use the linisher to grind it down a bit. I also need a receiving cup for the arm to sit on and for the old bush to drop into without jamming up. Before I try to press out the old bushes, I'll add a few drops of penetrating oil and leave it for a couple of hours. I did wear a bit of the anodizing off it. So to make it easier for the next bush of this size, I'll just grind a little bit off. So I ground the socket down a little bit. Doesn't drop all the way through, but it goes right through. Now to work out what sleeve I need to push out the bush on the end of the arm. This bush is 37.2mm, so subtracting a bit for clearance, I'll need something around 36.5mm. I don't have a sleeve of that size either, so it's back to the socket collection again. I'm using a shallow 26mm socket, which is 36mm diameter, so it's a bit smaller than ideal, but we'll see how it goes. The bush receiving cup needs to be slightly bigger than the bush, so it can drop down into the cup freely. This receiving cup is about 40mm inside diameter. The control arm is rounded at the front and flat at the back. I put the flat side of the arm down onto the bush receiving cup, and I'm lining up the ram. 26mm socket looked a bit small pressing out the old bush, but it actually worked fine. The new bush is 37.1mm diameter, and I'll use this socket, which is 38mm diameter, to press it in. And I'll use this cup, which is 48mm outside and 38mm inside, for the control arm to sit on while I press the bush in. $54mm outside diameter and 44mm inside diameter. The shock absorber control arm bush, 40.2mm diameter. Impact socket at 39.8mm. And now the control arms are ready to be reinstalled, but I might leave the right one out until after the gearbox is back in. If you're working on a car the same as mine, check out the video description where you can see a list of the press sleeves and receiving cup sizes I used. I really enjoyed using the hydraulic press to do this job, as I hadn't used this one before and it worked really well. Accurately measuring the new bushes was the first step in working out what size sleeves and cups I needed. Using the correct size sleeve is essential to push out the old bush in a controlled and safe way. There can be some scary noises that happen when the press is all loaded up and the bush starts to move for the first time, so I wear all the protective gear to be safe. Having a couple of generic press kits is a good start, but I often have to make something to get the job done, as the Honda and Mitsubishi special tools I've tried to buy are always no longer available. If this video was helpful or interesting, click the subscribe and notify buttons, and if you have time, check out my other videos. But that's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.